Welcome to the village of Chulmleigh, nestling in the heart of the Devon countryside. As in any other Devon village, life goes on normally from day to day, but every summer something special happens, and has been happening every year since 1253. In that year, King Henry III signed a royal charter granting the people of Chulmleigh their very own fair. That tradition has remained unbroken for the last 750 years and has become a part of life for everyone connected with the village.
We know that King Henry III signed a charter in 1253 allowing a fair to take place in Chulmleigh. We assume his main reason for that was that he could collect some form of tax because he signed charters allowing fairs all over Devon, not just Chulmleigh. There's a copy of the old charter in the town hall, but the original charter is in a record office in London.
The glove is displayed from the window of the town hall by the opener of Chulmleigh Fair on the Tuesday evening, and it stays there for the whole week. It represents the protection of the king. It's his gauntlet sent to Chulmleigh to be put on display for the duration of the fair, and none of his men could disrupt the fair without consequences.
The fair means a good opportunity for people to come back to Chulmleigh. Every year we find that it's a big gathering together time. It's better than Christmas for lots of families.
People who are born in Chulmleigh, you see, it's been going for so many years that each generation, it's just a natural thing for them. July, can't do anything else, can't go on holiday, can't even go on an outing because Chulmleigh Fair's coming and we've just got to be here. Because partly all the old families come back to Chulmleigh. So even if you've left Chulmleigh sort of 50 years ago, some of that family will come back and meet old friends and have a good old chat and yarn and reminisce. It is such a wonderful family gathering as well as other things that go on.
Everybody look forward to Chulmleigh Fair because everybody will say, oh, you're going to Chulmleigh Fair? Oh yes, I wouldn't miss Chulmleigh Fair. This is when you met people, you see. I mean, well, we used to have people coming into the King's Arms that we hadn't seen for 12 months. It's an old town. I mean, you want to keep the thing going, you know. You can't just say, well, we're not going to do it anymore. I mean, it's such a shame. I mean, if you look around, there's lots of little country villages still doing their own fair, but a lot of them don't go back as far as ours.
Oh, it was chaotic. Well, there wasn't much room, much more. The sheep and the cattle more or less took over. And of course, we had the warriors. Oh, I think it was rivalry between local farmers. Yeah, I mean, all right, I mean, I used to take a pride in trying to get the lambs. So I did receive a couple of rosettes on that, and I think you'll find in there 1 year I exceeded it by £2 a head on most of the sheep that were there. But we'd done it purely for get the rosette, you see. And it was the same with the cattle. We had two local, Mr. John Sanders and Mr. Percy Pennington. They would buy cattle purely to see which one could get the top price, irrespective of whether they won or lost on it. Some of the things haven't changed. The kids running the town, and we used to get the stalls in 4th Street and all that. We used to get the swing boats down in the square. So you had to go up high enough to be able to see the time on the tower. And by that time you were getting a bit reckless. I can remember when the stalls were the fruit stalls and that. Well, I was a very small boy at the time, but it always stays in your memory.
Chulmleigh does cling on to all its funny little ways. People get very upset if things are changed. It causes unknown upset if they discover that anything has been taken out of joint. And in a way, that's part of the reason it stays traditional, is because people demand that it does. So even if the committee wanted to completely rearrange the whole week, we'd be run out of town.
Well, the idea of a fair queen is really quite modern, in that the first one was in 1950, and it was an idea put forward by Mr. George Jennings, who was the headmaster at the community college and also a member of the fair committee, was that it would involve pupils from the community college and the primary school and get them more involved with the fair. The very first Fair Queen was chosen by the teachers at the school. It was decided after 1950 that it was a very good idea, very successful. Let's have a Fair Queen every year. And for 4 or 5 years, different methods were chosen to try to sort out the best way to choose a queen. And then somebody hit on the idea of having a public ballot, and it's been like that ever since. A lady called Miss Tucker, who was a teacher at the infant school, was in charge of the royalty. She was helped by Miss Mortimer and 1 or 2 other ladies of Chulmleigh. And she continued doing that until I came on the scene in the late 1970s. And after a couple of years, she asked me if I would be interested in taking on the role of looking after the royalty. And I said I would. And Miss Tucker said that before she would pass this on to me, I would have to make certain promises. For example, the church service, which now takes place on the Tuesday evening, which is the opening of the fair, was done specially to show off the royalty, so that they had their little procession into church and out again, and it was to be a short service so that all of the children from both schools could be encouraged to come along and support the fair. I think it's amazing to think that probably for 750 years there's been a fair right here in Chulmleigh, and that when we stand in Fore Street opening the fair, we know that it won't be exactly the same as it was 700 odd years ago, but we know it's the same as it was 200 or 300 years ago. And it's quite a thought, really, that history's been repeating itself all that many times.
Oh, yay! Oh, yay! Oh, yay! Our charter states that by King Henry III's permission, John de Courtenay and his heirs forever may have one fair at Chulmleigh each year, lasting 4 days. That is to say, on the vigil and on the day of St. Mary Magdalene, and on the 2 days following. This charter was signed on the 25th day of September 1253. God save the Queen!
Welcome to Chulmleigh Old Fair 2003. This year is a very special fair as it celebrates its 750th anniversary. I hope you are all as proud as I am of this achievement. And now it gives me great pleasure to declare Chulmleigh Old Fair 2003 open. It makes me feel very proud to open the fair this year. Well, I think it's nice to keep the old tradition going. Right, you know, you have to alter it a little bit because times changed, you know, but we try to keep the old tradition going.
This gives me great pleasure to crown you Chulmleigh Fair Queen 2003.
It's very special, and it's an honour to do it this year because there's lots of people that wanted to be Fair Queen and I got voted in by the public.
One of the oldest customs of the fair, and a highlight for all the children, is the money scramble, where shiny new coins are thrown from the town hall into the streets below.
Before I came here, they used to heat the pennies up and drop them out of the window, and the children couldn't grab them. They had to be fairly cautious about waiting for them to cool off sufficiently that they didn't get their hands burnt. And some children had quite nasty burns on their fingers.
I think it's Chulmleigh's open day, if you like. Oh yeah, I'd like to see it go on forever, another 750 years, all being well. I don't suppose I'd be around to see it, but I'd like to think I would. I reckon it's a wonderful thing for the kids. We've just got to look around now and see them running about, enjoying themselves, you know, bag full of sweets which they might have had on the Tuesday night otherwise, scrambling for the pennies and things like that. Well, wonderful fun, isn't it? The only time they'll do it is Chulmleigh Fair.
Our church is the centre of our parish, and this is where it all happened. Many years ago here, outside the church here, they had the sheep fair. They used to have pens with sheep along here, and it was magnificent. I well remember that as a young woman. Well, I've done the flowers here in church for several years now. I've always helped. This year, the festival is based on the old things that happened many years ago in Chulmleigh. Lots of people have done individual sections, especially the archway is done by a very good lady, Sheila Trineman, and she's always done very beautiful arrangements, and she loves doing big things. And there's Judith Parr here and her daughter, they're doing a lovely arrangement. But I've always enjoyed being in the church here and singing and doing lots of things with others.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Beard will now announce the winner of the Best Craft Stall.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful privilege to come up here today and take part in the judging of these stalls. And there's such a wide variety of crafts, it's quite a difficult task. But bearing in mind that this market 750 years ago would have been a sort of a street market and everything laid out on the floor for people to deal with, I have made the decision that the medieval wickerwork and basketry shall be awarded the cup this year for the variety of work that she's put in and got on display.
Now, Mr. Tony Beard will present the prize to the best overall stall. Mr. Beard?
Well, once again, a difficult task. And as I said earlier, so many people have made an effort to decorate their stall and also to fix themselves up with costume and all that type of thing. But the one which really struck me as being exceptional this year was the two wenches that offered me a mazzard to eat as I walked around. Ladies and gentlemen, I offer you the two wenches and their stall as the overall winner this year, and I think it is a fabulous display.
Come ye young men, come along, with your music, dance and song. Bring your
When you see people that you know that are dressed up and you look twice, you think, yes, it is somebody you know. And it's such a laugh, and they've made such an effort, it's wonderful.
Come away, for 'tis now the holiday. Then to the Maypole come away, for 'tis now the holiday. When you thus have spent the time, till the day be past its prime, to your bed repair that night, and dream there of your day's delight. Then to the Maypole come away, for 'tis now the holiday. Then to the Maypole come away, for 'tis now the holiday.
The fair has always been the main highlight in Chulmleigh's calendar, but it is the Wednesday that has always been regarded as the business day. This was the day when the sheep sales were traditionally held in the village streets and when people arrived to pay their bills.
In the 1980s, it became more and more difficult to organise a sheep sale, and the then chairman, who was Mr. Joe Fulbrook, said we just can't let this connection go, because obviously for centuries it was the main part of the fair. So we decided that instead of having a sheep sale, we would have a sheep show.
Well, the sheep show, they've only been going for about 11 years now, 11, 12 years. So the sheep show has gone very well. And I think it is taking the place of the auction, because these people love their showing, and it's been a bit sad the last couple of years we haven't been able to have it. So we haven't had done for 2 years, you see, but then this year we started up again. So hopefully it'll keep going.
When I was very young, I had brothers and sisters, and my father, we always brought 100 sheep to Chulmleigh Fair to sell in the sheep sale. And we children had to drive them all the way from Labden Farm, a distance of 4 miles, to the fair. And it was quite exciting, really, because there was farmers in front of us driving sheep as well, and we had to make sure that our sheep didn't get into his flock and vice versa.
The farmers used to dip the sheep and they'd mix a yellow dye in with the dip, and they'd be yellow as anything. Yellow sheep, just like bananas they'd be. That always seems to spring to my mind, when I was a little kid looking over the church wall.
The flower show was started in the early 60s by my grandmother and her friend Mrs. Abigail, who was the then rector's wife. They had an idea that it would be a good thing to have a flower show on Fair Wednesday, because that was the day the farmers came in to do their negotiating, and selling sheep was still then. But the farmers' wives didn't have very much to do, so they tended not to come or were rather bored. So the idea was conceived and a small committee made. And it's still going today, and it's very popular, so it's an opportunity for newcomers in Chulmleigh to take part in something that makes them feel part of Chulmleigh fairly quickly.
Yes, I am. Anyone doesn't know what this is? It's a cardoon. Oh. And it's very prickly.
Yes, thank you, Rosemary.
Right.
I've been coming to the fair for many years. I think I only remember missing one, actually, when I was in hospital in 1966. But then apart from that, I always look forward to coming to the fair and helping on this fair. And I think it's something we got to keep going. It's something that the countryside look forward to. And as I say, been going for 750 years, so I hope they'll keep it going for another 750. This fair has grown over the last few years. Anyway, it seems to be growing all the time. This just Jim Cadillacs a new thing we've only been running for 2 years. And it's nice to see the heavy horses come. I was saying probably a lot of young children never seen heavy horses before.
The fair is also an occasion for the village to showcase its heritage, and an opportunity for locals and visitors to learn more about Chulmleigh and its inhabitants.
I do town walks for the fair, and I've been doing those for about 5 years now, and I take visitors, locals around to different cottages, streets, and try and remember the things that I should know to tell them about the history of different buildings and the people who lived in them. And the people, to me, are more important than the buildings themselves.
Why have we got a pump in the middle of a street? Anybody with any ideas? Horses, cattle. When we had our big fair, which was founded in 1253,
That was used then to provide all the cattle that would be in the main street, the horses tied up. I've got a photograph at home, it shows you all the posts where the horses were tied. Horses tied up, ready for sale, and the cattle ready for sale, right in the middle of the street. So you had to give them water, and there it was.
Visitors add enormously to the Chulmleigh people's enjoyment of the fair, I'm sure. A lot of them obviously are relations and that sort of thing, but it often brings back people who haven't been back to Chulmleigh for a long time. I mean, yesterday I was walking around, I met patients that I was attending maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, and it was fascinating when they bring them back.
I think it's important that we try to continue the traditions of the fair, to keep the history going, bring the history alive really, and to record as much of this as we can. We're unique here. Many places were granted a charter around about the same time as Chulmleigh, but most of them have lapsed. And as far as we can see, Chulmleigh is the only place where the fair's continued every year, including through both World Wars. With more and more interest in local heritage and history, it's important to keep that going. But it's also very important for the business people of the community. There's no doubt at all that we bring extra people to Chulmleigh, and it's up to the business people really to promote what they're doing to get the extra people through their doors.
There is the business club in Chulmleigh has supported the fair this year. Yeah, the businesses do very well out of it, and I'd like to think that we all in our own way give something back, not only through the fair but through the rest of the year as well. I mean, the whole town at the moment is doing really, all the shops are full. Everybody seems to be doing quite well, and it's just a nice place to be.
I think it's very important to have a basis for Chulmleigh Fair so that people know each year we're going to have this, we're going to have that, because we've always had it. And that is part of the pleasure, I think, of Chulmleigh Fair. But also, nobody's against new things. And we've got a bicana this afternoon.
Too many old traditions are dying out, and these country traditions, it's very, very important to keep them going. And I admire the people who organise them, because I know there's a lot of work involved. The one thing that really sticks in my mind is the sports on Saturday night. I'm glad to see that the old traditional games are kept. The bun fighting, the apple dunking, That was really good to see, especially using the old tin baths. And I presume it's still the same ones that they used when I was a child.
Let's go!
It takes a lot of organising this, and although everybody might sort of have their own ideas about, you know, what the best way to do these things, you've got to take your hat off to the people who are prepared to do this for nothing really, and I think it's come off very well. Judging by the crowds that are here tonight, you know that I think it's going to be quite a successful end to it all as well. Yeah.
It's been a brilliant Chulmleigh Fair, one of the best. Highlight for me, probably watching the kids enjoy themselves. That's what it's all about, Chulmleigh Fair.
It's been really good fun. We've been doing activities, we've been doing all the stalls, and then tomorrow I'm going to the sports.
A lot of it hasn't changed actually. It's quite funny to see some of the traditions and familiar faces around. It's very different to London, so it's fun to come and see it for a one-off.
Yeah. I've seen 64 Chulmleigh Fairs since I was about 3 years old. Yeah. Well, I think the playing field, the fancy dress and all that this afternoon was very good. Yeah.
Families are an important part of life in the village, and this year the Sunday was set aside for the traditional Family Sports Day.
Ready, steady, go!
Everyone had the chance to take their marks and race for a coveted Chulmleigh Fair Cup.
And the winner of the Skinner Cup, Jordan Ford.
Other events were laid on for children and their parents, all in the spirit of the medieval theme to mark the ancient origins of the fair.
Draw. Loose. Take your mark. Draw. Loose.
stick. Oh my lord, they're not serving those again and calling them burgers.
Show us. Oh, these are Maureen.
Steady, go.
Oh yes! The Normans conquer again!
Sunday afternoon also saw a unique gathering of past fair queens brought together for the first time to celebrate this special anniversary year.
I was able to trace all but one of them, and wrote to all of them and invited to come along for a cream tea. What else could you have in Chulmleigh? And to make a little presentation to them. So they all had a special brooch to commemorate the anniversary.
I was Queen in 1959. It was my last year at school, at the local secondary school as it was then, and I spent my needlework lessons making the dress, which I still have. It was a very happy occasion and a great honour, presenting prizes, the cups on Sports Day and the sports in the street, and it was also fun to watch and fun to be part of.
I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I remember Mrs. Saunders and Mrs. Kingdom walking down the street with me as I came from the school. I was 13 and it was really exciting.
And I can remember Miss Tucker. She took me under her wing and I thought it was lovely. I felt really special because it was the highlight of the year. It was Chulmleigh Fair. And to be Queen, it was like the cream then, wasn't it? We just reached the ultimate.
Memories. It brings back memories. Sometimes it's a bit sad, but it connects you with the past. So you can think of the people that you knew and the people you were with, and they might have gone now, might have left the area, or they might have even died, but you think of them always at the fair, and then you turn a corner and see one of their children, and you have a good old natter about that person, and you feel really good. And you might not see any of that family except at Chulmleigh Fair time.